So what is the difference between the $87,000 Maserati Grecale versus the $58,000 Alfa Romeo Stelvio? Remember, they're built on the same famous Giorgio platform that handles really well. So really, what could be the difference that would justify such a huge price increase between the two brands? We're gonna check it out. They're both Italian, they both look pretty beautiful, and yeah, we're gonna see what it's all about. Who is the buyer of the Maserati Grecale, or who is the buyer of the Alfa Romeo Stelvio? Now, the different brand ethos between Alfa Romeo and Maserati can be described as this. They are owned by the same company, Chrysler Stellantis. Maserati is more focused on the luxury side of things with a little hint of the sport, whereas Alfa Romeo flips that, and it focuses more so on the sport and dynamic handling aspect of the drive with a little hint of luxury. So to start understanding the differences, we first have to go to the engine. Now, Alfa Romeo does not have a hybrid system. This Maserati Grecale has a 48-volt mild hybrid battery system that adds a little bit more horsepower and torque to bump it to 325 horsepower and 332 pounds-feet of torque, whereas the Alfa Romeo has 280 horsepower and 305 pounds-feet of torque. Now, as you know, the bare bones is the Giorgio platform, so in terms of storage, this is going to be pretty much the same exact amount of storage that you would get regardless of what brand you choose. Pretty good amount of space for an SUV that is this size. As you can tell, there is no difference in the practicality versus the two brands. So that's not really what the discussion is about. Setting off in the Maserati Grecale. This is Lace. If you guys remember, I did a review on his blue F80. You guys can follow his channel in the description below. And we're just setting off. Things to note. Number one, there is no physical switchgear for the transmission. It's button. And so that is already something you have to train your mind to get used to. Also, there is a very nice, crisp and clear heads-up display, which makes really, you don't have to ever look down, really. It tells you your speed. It also, if you have the navigation, it tells you where you are about to turn and all of these things. And so right now, I mean, we're heading off and I can already tell there's a lot more luxuries that this vehicle has, which, I mean, people could consider it as just niceties that are unnecessary. For a more mature buyer, these things are appreciated. Things like the switchgear, even down to the window switches. The quality feels a lot higher and a lot better feeling than the switchgear in the Stelvio, or in my car, for instance. That's, again, just what you're paying when you're paying upwards of 30 grand over what you would be getting in the Stelvio. Just in terms of the driving dynamics, very smooth, would you say? And this is in sport mode.
Wow, this is sport?
This is sport mode, yeah.
I thought we were in comfort mode. Yeah, it's really smooth. The drive is smooth. It feels like we're on like a cloud.
Yeah, and I think that is due to the air suspension now. I tried to look and see if there was air suspension in the spec sheet, but I didn't see. And I see the availability in the infotainment screen to switch the ride height to go off-road, aero, and so I'm assuming this has air suspension, which is, again, something that the Stelvio doesn't have. And again, these are more niceties that are not necessarily necessary, but they're beautiful to have, especially if you get the dual characteristic of a nice, comfortable cruiser and also really, really balanced performance SUV. Now, just another thing to note, the steering and how it feels to change directions and just the overall ratio is very much similar to my car. I really would bet that it uses the same exact steering system. Feels the exact same heft, same pretty much turn of direction. The only thing to note is you definitely at slow speeds feel the vehicle's weight. What the? Oh, also this does have an LSD, whereas the Stelvio does not have an LSD. Do you hear that? That sounds good. Almost sounds like it has an aftermarket exhaust from the factory. So you definitely do get a little bit of sport with this vehicle. It's not all luxury. Yeah.
It's very impressive.
Yeah. Just going up and down the road in a straight line, this feels like a very much more matured version of the Stelvio, which if you really love the Stelvio and if you don't mind maybe a little bit of extra weight dealing with in the normal day-to-day commute, and you want the nicer features, the better materials, the ambient lighting, the better sound system. This has a Sonos Faber's sound system. The Stelvio has a Harman Kardon sound system. And just overall, how this interior looks, it looks like you're getting what you're paying for.
I agree. And I don't know if you guys probably can't tell, but we went over bumps and a little bit of a hill, and the ride is just
I'm going to do a U-turn and go back.
Yeah, the ride is just very smooth throughout all of the inclines and corners as well. And you sure we're in sport mode?
Now we're in sport mode now.
Yeah, wow.
So this is our switch gear to tell what drive modes we're in, whether in sport, GT, comfort, or off-road. You definitely feel a little bit of a lean and a weight, but I mean, we're going 47 in a long, winding corner. The weight definitely holds it back from accelerating from like something with my car, which it's a little bit lighter. Same essentially engine, doesn't have the hybrid. Overall, I mean, the pickup is very similar. But just look at the vibes in here with the ambient lighting, with the metal sound system, and all of the leather. And look at this beautiful, I like it. A lot of people don't, but look at that. It's a clock, a digital clock, which I'm pretty sure you can change to a G meter, which boom, boom, G meter. I will say, if you like the driving experience of the Giulia or of the Stelvio, but some of the, crappy interior parts might have just annoyed you and pushed you away from buying it, consider one of these. Especially if you're not necessarily concerned about like the uber highest of performance, because that would be the Trofeo, which has essentially like Maserati's version of the QB engine with the Formula One derived pre-ignition technology, which the Maserati engine has. Gives it a little bit more power. But if you want something that is really, I would say, comparable to like an X3 with a little bit more flair, get this. And at the end of the day, this is a Maserati. Say what you will about the brand, about how it had kind of a shitty reputation. It has a rich brand history, number one. Number two, to the average everyday person, this is a status symbol, and you can't act like that's not a part of your decision making if you're buying one of these vehicles. And there's just not many of these on the road. You see a lot of different luxury vehicles, especially like, for instance, the Porsche Cayenne. You see those all the time. And keep in mind, my mom has a Porsche Cayenne. So it's a great vehicle. It's held her really, really long. But if you just want something a little bit different, something with a little bit more flair, a little bit more style, a little bit more passion, go for one of this. It sounds good, it looks good, and what it's built around, the Giorgio platform, a ZF 8-speed transmission, the same 4-cylinder turbo that has been in the Giulia since 2016. These things are, at the end of the day, made to last. You might deal with some electrical issues when you're pushing new technology here and there, but that's why you buy a warranty. The Stelvio is going to have a lot to compete with, unfortunately, especially having driven this one first. The weight is really going to have to be a noticeable difference for one person if they were in the financial capabilities to choose both, for them to choose the Stelvio over the Grecale, because there's just so much better about this car than, honestly, from what I understand of the Stelvio. And that's what we're going to drive coming up next. So the next time you see us, we will be in the Stelvio, guys. Now, setting off in the Stelvio. Now, I'm not going to do an extensive drive on this because I've had extensive seat time in a Stelvio. So I'm pretty familiar with how it drives already. And the first thing I will note is that the difference in weight just in the everyday drive is pretty noticeable. This car is much quicker to change directions, especially up front. That could be because of the difference in this not having the mild hybrid system and all of the soundproofing materials that is incorporated in the difference between a Maserati, which is, again, focused more around the luxurious experience versus this, which is a little bit more so focused on the sport aspect. So again, setting off, same steering ratio, I'm guessing, but it feels the same, really. Little things to note, some of the touch points in this vehicle definitely feel a lot cheaper than in the Maserati. For instance, the window switches. It's like an ugly matte black plastic. This climate control vent system here, while a lot easier and better to use on a normal daily basis, the look of it looks a lot cheaper than what we are given in the Maserati, which is again what you get when you pay $30,000 extra to go from the Alfa Romeo to the Maserati. It does the same thing that essentially the Maserati does. Has a very similar pull, although this feels like it pulls harder just because it's lighter. The switchgear is different. You don't have the drive mode select on the steering wheel. You have it right here on the DNA select. And yeah, the transmission, same feel when it shifts gears. However, this doesn't have the exhaust that the Maserati Grecale does. That is also a huge difference in the driving experience and feel, which really a $400 catback exhaust is going to do the same thing on this vehicle, but that already comes with it. This doesn't. This also doesn't have any ambient lighting, so the overall vibe you get in here is definitely, it's definitely a nice looking cockpit. There's nice touches. There's leather on the dashboard, these aluminum paddles. We have the infotainment that is digital. A lot of nice touches, but it's like they went 70% of the way, whereas Maserati went the entire way to make the entire feel of what you're driving feel a lot more premium than this. Now, if we're talking about who buys these different vehicles, who would you say is the type of person to buy the Stelvio? I would say maybe a young family, a young parent, somebody who likes and appreciates sporty driving, but who might have a family and who might need practicality in their lives. I would say the Grecale is more so for that 35-year-old to 45-year-old business owner, maybe a real estate agent, somebody who wants a little bit of that driving sporty dynamic with a lot more maturity in the execution, which is exactly what this vehicle is. Anyways, guys, that was the video. Give me a subscribe if you like. I'm going to continue to do more of these reviews, guys. Just give me some time. Yeah, I really enjoyed that Grecale. I love the Stelvio, trust me, I love it. But that Grecale really, really did just blow me away. So, guys, you already know where to go if you guys would like to find any of these vehicles. Safford, Maserati, Alfa Romeo, and Tyson's. And I would recommend Daniel, but honestly, any of the salespeople there are going to take care of you. So yeah, guys, go and buy yourselves either an Alfa Romeo if you're starting off, or a Maserati. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what everyone else says, the memes on the internet. Just buy it. Experience it for yourself, and you'll like it.